Hi, Andy Perro with Orion Talent. Just quick introduction. I'm the Senior Account Executive. And with me today is Chris Dove. Chris is a Navy nuclear technician and the lead technician recruiter here on the East Coast for Orion. First of all, for all of those watching that are veterans, want to say thank you for your service, especially on Memorial Day. And Chris, I want to say thanks for spending a few moments just to answer some questions so we can really educate those that want to hire veterans and let them know the amazing talent that's out there. So thanks again.
You're welcome.
So first of all, obviously you got in through the Navy's nuclear program. Can you tell me a little bit about how that process worked to get into such an elite program in the Navy?
So it's a little bit of a long process. It starts off taking your ASVAB, the traditional test that every person takes to enter the military on the enlisted side. As long as you scored an 80 or above on your ASVAB, they'll start talking to you about the Navy nuclear program. They'll have you take a second nuclear aptitude battery, which is like a follow-on testing to the ASVAB. As long as you score high enough on that as well, they'll give you the opportunity to go into boot camp as a nuke. Once you get to boot camp, you just do the traditional boot camp that everyone else does. Following boot camp, you'll go down to Charleston, South Carolina for your A school. It's about 6 months long, electrical theory, the standard school that the conventional electricians mates in the Navy would go to. It's a little bit longer and a little bit more rigorous, but essentially, if somebody doesn't make it through the nuclear program, this allows them to go out to the fleet as a conventional electrician's mate. Following that, you have your Navy nuclear pipeline. Navy nuclear power school is another 6-month school there at the same base. You'll do reactor theory, thermodynamics, heat transfer and fluid flow, further, your studies in electronics, electrical theory, mechanical theory. So they kind of wrap all of that into one. As long as you pass that school, that qualifies you to go to the nuclear prototype training unit. It's 2 fully functional submarines with functioning nuclear reactors on them. And basically you'll be on one of 4 crews that are taking care of the ships. That's another 6 months long. So when it's all said and done, you have 18 months of rigorous training. It usually takes you about 2 years to complete the final program, and then you'll spend 4 years out in the fleet.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, obviously you started with a large group of trainees that were going through that program. How many of those did not finish? And tell me a little bit about that.
So from boot camp to prototype graduation, you have maybe like a 40% attrition rate. So 4 out of every 10 people that you started with aren't going to be there at your prototype graduation. They might flunk out an A school. It might be a security background thing. There's a lot of ways to kind of get yourself out of the nuclear pipeline. So it's definitely the top of the top as far as enlisted technical rates.
Amazing again. Now, once you actually got out to the fleet, tell me about some of the duties, what your typical day would look like as a Navy nuclear tech.
So you do about 6 hours of maintenance and repairs every day. Everything from preventative maintenance, like inspecting a switchboard, all the way up to repairing a motor generator or a 750 megawatt turbine generator. And then you'll do 6 hours of watch standing, so taking logs, touring the plant, making sure everything's, working properly, and then you have the rest of the time for personal time. But it's usually about 6 hours of maintenance, 6 hours of watch standing.
Okay, excellent. Now, once you made the decision to get out of the Navy, what was that like? How did it, was there a lot of companies going after you? How did you hear about Orion initially?
So Orion, I honestly don't remember how I initially heard about them, but they were kind of my saving grace because I did the military transition wrong. I had no real exit plan. I didn't do any kind of civilian qualifications or anything before I got out. So I got really lucky that Orion invited me to a hiring conference. They flew me up to Columbus, Ohio from here in Portsmouth, and I got a job. I got 2 job offers from the conference, and I ended up selecting one in Columbus. So I got really lucky with my transition. But yeah, there was definitely an unlimited amount of opportunities for me.
Okay, excellent. Now that you're on the recruiting side of the house, tell me about the hot industries right now that are targeting and hiring veterans, and why do you think those companies and those industries have leaned on hiring military?
So not a lot of people are going to trade schools anymore. So the DoD is now the world's largest trainer of technical rates. So your electricians, HVAC, electronics technicians, all that stuff. The DoD is now providing that skill set to civilian employers. So a lot of the major trends we're seeing right now is the data center industry, critical facilities engineering, building management, because a lot of that involves watch standing as well as the technical aspects of the job. And then field service was what I got into, and I thought it was a really good transition from active duty to civilian world. It kind of gives you like a nice buffer. You're part of a team, but you're not at an office all day. You're not working with the same people all the time, but you get to kind of be autonomous and do your own thing.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thanks again, and to all those watching the video, please reach out to us if you need any help in finding talent coming out of the military. Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you.